This is the Ship Tavern, built in 1549. It looks like a normal little pub, hidden in a beautiful little set of alleyways here. But what makes the Ship Tavern so special is some of its secrets. You see, after the desolation of the monasteries and the banishment of Catholicism, it became illegal to be a Catholic. It became illegal to practice Catholicism. This pub hid Catholic priests and allowed Catholic sermons.
Ceremony and association, basically, sir, was permitted for Catholics in this here pub during an era of persecution.
Yes.
A ceaseless, perpetual persecution.
Which would have been outlawed at the time, which means this property actually looked after the outlaws of the day. Now, there's another huge factor of interest behind this pub.
That would be Richard Pendrell,
Richard
sir.
Pendrell, who aided the escape of Charles II, King Charles II. Now, King Charles II, his father Charles I, was not liked, shall we say, by Parliament, and he remained staunch friends, or had friends, in the Catholic world. As a result, some parties believed it was time for him to go. So Charles I was involved in what we know as the Civil War, parliamentarians against the Royalist army, and eventually Charles I lost. Eventually Charles I was beheaded. Now, 2 years later, his son Charles II, he comes back in an attempt to, after raising an army, to get the monarch back to what he believes the rightful place. And at the Battle of Worcester, King Charles II lost, meaning he had to do a runner. It was time for him to leave. And Cromwell's forces were guarding many places to escape. So Richard Pendrell, who actually drank in this pub, helped Charles II escape to a farmhouse where we get the famous term Royal Oak, because there's a tree on the specific farm to this day. It's not the actual tree. Saplings actually helped form this tree from the original tree. And the story goes, which apparently Charles II would tell people to bore them once he was put back on the throne, was that the Cromwellian soldiers were looking for him on this farm, and he was hiding in a hollowed out tree. He'd climbed up and he was looking down on the soldiers. Is it true? We don't know. The tree where the previous tree stood is still preserved, but we don't know. In a minute, we're going to go up and read this plaque here. And this plaque has something else incredibly interesting on it, because we don't know whether it was in reaction to the discovery of Catholic priests being hidden here, but something else incredibly interesting happened in this building. So why don't we have another look?
The historical significance of this here building can be summed up as a marriage between the clerisy and the monarchy, mutually assisting each other while being mutually persecuted by the parliamentarians and Cromwellites. That would be the nutshell history briefing of this here locale, ladies and gentlemen. Let's have a look at the plaque.
Yeah. Before we read the plaque, have a little look down here. It's right near the Royal Courts of Justice as well. You can imagine the Catholics hiding among the highest echelons of society, and they would have previously been the highest echelons of society. And here they are now, hiding in here, hiding their identity, their belief system. Al, do me a favour. Let's read this.
Let's have a go.
Coming nice and close for me.
On this here placard, ladies and gentlemen, it says the following.
Coming even closer, just in case.
Estimated AD 1549, rebuilt AD 1923, the Ship Tavern. This tavern was established in the year 1549. during the prescription of the Roman Catholic religion, it was used as a shelter for priests, and I believe that this means church services were held here secretly. The neighborhood was once notorious for the gambling houses of Whetstone Park. Famous visitors have been Richard Penderell, aforementioned, who aided King Charles escape, Bayford, shoemaker and antiquarian, the woman Chevalier Dayon, who lived as a man, and Smeaton, the builder of the first Eddystone lighthouse. It was a centre of Freemasonry and a lodge with the number 234, and was consecrated here by the Grand Master, the Earl of Antrim, in 1786.
The way up.
Right.
Another beautifully laid out pub with wonderful colours, look. Lovely.
It's cosy, warming and inviting, sir.
Absolutely.
And the history is terrific behind it.
It's such a waste if you walk into pubs like this and they don't have memorabilia like this.
Aye.
Yeah. It's a lovely old bar as well. Come over and have a look for me, cameraman. Capital wines.
Ships from the colonial history. We see also.
I love that. Right, Al, I'll get you. Let's get a drink. Do you want a scotch? Do you fancy a scotch?
No, I'll have a beer, please.
Yeah, okay.
A pint, please.
Hello, darling. I will have a scotch, please, and a lager.
A scotch.
And a lager, please.
Any particular?
A Amstel, please, darling. You can see the view from inside is the old-fashioned Victorian wall outside, see? This is nice. Look, this is lovely, look. I love the old bookshelf setup. Back when I was a kid, one of my family members, he used to love buying Victorian books, and you know, he'd put up old-fashioned looking shelves, and it turns the place from new to old overnight. But, it's an effect that I deeply love, that I really do. So this tiny little room was all that Catholics had to have their ceremonies and to hide. Can you imagine them all cramming in here? I mean, it would have probably had a different layout to this, but it's hardly a cathedral, is it? You know? When previously, not long before, you had the Gothic St. Paul's Cathedral nearby, and now all of a sudden you're hiding in this little hole.
An astute point, sir. The way that I see it, the monarchy and monarchies in general, as well as the priesthood class, both the monarchy and the clerisy, they can mutually cohabit and collaborate with each other so long as they have the in-group interest of the population at heart, rather than, well, being paused and taken over.
This affected our relationship with other countries as well, like Spain and France, and would stem on to many of the stories which you have been taught speak of British bravery, British war success. And quite often, the actual reality behind the tales are more interesting and devious than meet the eye. But this pub, as it is now, I absolutely love it. Al, what do you reckon?
It's gorgeous, both on the interior and exterior, and its history is eyebrow-raising, specifically because the plots and schemes and ceremonies and peoples that would have gone through those specific doors that we just went through.
Yeah, big time.
Very important historical figures.
And the people looking
leaders
for them. So
yes.
imagine not only the calibre of people that are telling authorities to look for people that are in here, and the calibre of the people in here that are hiding from them. You're talking
Yes.
the top echelon of both sides.
Yes.
And it's a back and forth.
The supreme decision makers of England at the time of the Civil War across both factions had this here specific locale as a focal point of their investigations into the opposing faction, the monarchists, papacy affiliated factions. And therefore, this here locale being a hotbed of these two warring factions, on the one side papacy and monarchy, and on the other side parliamentarians, Cromwellites and internationalist entities, really is an interesting point of history that deserves to be remembered and recollected. This here domain serves as testament to that, which is English history embodied. That's the function of this here domain. It serves as an embodiment of English history, and that's why it ought to be cherished.
European history.
Yes.
European history.
I'm glad that they didn't demolish it, and the people whom ensured that it didn't get demolished, if a deity exists, may it bless their souls. That's all from me.
What? Hang on, before we end. Very rarely do we actually do this now, but I'm going to give this quite a high rating. I'm going to go for a 10 as far as historical layouts, just feeling. I'm going to give the pub a 10. Only you in the audience can really decide what you think if you used to come here. What do you want to give it?
9.2 out of 10 because it's a factional crossroads of history.
He's hard to impress, clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't mind it being one story taller, but having the exact same...
You can't just fabricate history out of nowhere.
No, you can't
There is another place up there. We just can't get up there.
Oh, really? Is it a VIP area?
Because by that theory, you can say, I wish it was 30 stories down.
Precisely.
No, but you can't
Yeah,
do that.
It's a cozy locale crossroads, though.
So it's not big enough for you, is that your problem?
Correct.
Right. Well, it's not big enough for Alex, okay? But I still give it a 10.
The history of it, though, is eyebrow-raising and intriguing, as far as I'm concerned.
To the pub.
To the pub.